So Speedsters, in this video we're going to be going over the biggest questions you may or may not have coming out of the Flash Season 5's finale. So, will we see Nora again? Has Cisco really left? And what about the Season 6 villain? Like, what is going on with that? So today, let's talk about all of these questions and more in this video. What is up, guys? Welcome to a brand new Flash video. So, as we all know, the Flash is over now and it won't be coming back till probably sometime in October, which sucks. But that doesn't mean we can't speculate and think about what could be going on next season. And what I've done is just got the most obvious questions coming out of the finale, just the ones that seem to be most prominently asked. So I didn't ask you guys for a Q&A, but I'm betting that these are most of your questions that you are thinking about. But if you want to see more videos like this, guys, in the off season, just kind of talking about the Flash and what they can do in Season 6, definitely leave a like on this video. And I'll probably be doing this with Arrow Season 7's finale, the biggest questions coming out of it. Which, come to think of it, I probably should have done first since the Arrow finale aired first, but hey ho, let's go. Cheesy. First question I wanted to talk about is that very ending moment in The Flash. So what is going on with that Crisis News article at the end of the episode being, changed to 2019? So this kind of involves Arrow's finale as well, and you may or may not watch Arrow, but this, you could argue this is spoilers, but at the same time, if you watch The Flash, this all surrounds the same event, being Crisis on Infinite Earths, so this explanation will have to do with what Oliver Queen did in his finale. So due to timeline changes, the looming crisis is coming a lot quicker than originally intended. As you may remember, it was previously known to be happening in 2024. But even if you don't watch Arrow, you would know it would have been this year, just from last year's crossover, teasing Crisis at the very end of this year. If you guys remember, at the end of Elseworlds, it was like, Crisis on Infinite Earths coming next year kind of thing. So Oliver Queen even thought that he had more time, but alas, at the end of Arrow Season 7's finale, the Monitor came for him, all ready to prepare for the event, and I will be going over what I think Oliver could be doing specifically, since he's already gone away with the Monitor in between those episodes leading up to the actual crossover event. So although it won't end up the way the characters believe, like with Barry dying and how, for example, the characters believe being like Reverse Flash saying, Nora, you can't stop the Flash from disappearing, he will always disappear. That is because this timeline change that is coming with Oliver Queen and everything else that will happen that we don't officially know of yet has never been experienced by that Reverse Flash. He thinks that Oliver Queen, in the history books lives to what did he say in season 1, 84 or something? So yeah, he always thinks that Barry will die. But hey, Earbard, you don't know everything as much as you think you do. So this next question is related to what we just spoke about, being if it is 2019, when exactly will the crossover take place? And you've probably guessed it already, which is mid-season, which has usually been the formula they've gone with beforehand. And from what we know from the CW upfronts, and I do have a Crisis CW upfronts video going up. Well, it's probably already up, so click in the cards above if you want the whole 5 hours over 2 quarters explained and all of the kind of confusingly worded way they put it in the upfronts explained. I just go over everything Crisis related very specifically, so if you want more stuff like these first 2 questions, check out the video that I uploaded. I don't even know when, but it should already be up. But ultimately, just going off the crossovers in the past, it will probably be episode 8 or 9 of each season. Of course, Batwoman's going to be featuring in this crossover because her show will be debuting Sundays at 8, 7 Central, followed by Supergirl, and then Arrow and the Flash, and then Legends in 2020. Now, this next question is a very, very interesting one, and it is who will be the main villain of Season 6, since there was no mega crystal clear setup like what they've done in previous seasons, mainly in Season 3, where it was the last time we got a solid tease for the next season's villain. But what is going on with Season 6? So as I just briefly mentioned, the last time we had a mega clear, as I put it, crystal clear setup for a villain was from Abracadabra in Season 3, who quite literally listed off the villains the Flash has faced, including another, which was DeVoe. At that point, we didn't really see DeVoe in the grand scheme of things. This season, the only setup that I took out of the show was when Captain Singh in the future, if you you guys remember, in the Mindscape, if you will, of Nora, when she was looking at that little pedestal, he actually did a similar thing to the teasers we got in previous seasons of a potential new villain. Now, if you guys remember, he mentioned a couple of like really threatening villains that the Flash has faced off. Like, it was something, I'm paraphrasing here, but he was like, oh, not as bad as Zoom or something like that. But then he also mentioned Red Death. And lo and behold, that is a person who we haven't come across yet in the show, and that is very, very similar to what we've had with Abracadabra. We literally had, he was talking about Zoom, Eobard Thawne, like Reverse Flash, and then he mentioned a name that just didn't click with everyone, DeVoe. So, you know, I can't guarantee this for you, but Red Death being in that same line of like future teasers for villains is very, very interesting. And you would have to think that the Flash faced Red Death before 2024, because that was the original time Crisis was happening. So you could argue they might still not do Red Death, and that could have been a legitimate tease, but they may have changed their mind. But the interesting thing about the villains for the next season of all of these shows, to be honest, minus Arrow, because it's not like they're gonna have a big bad with 10 episodes. How are they gonna be introduced? Like, are you really gonna introduce like a villain, but then you've got like the fate of the universe at stake with Crisis on Infinite Earths around the mid-season finale? So, you know, I reckon the villain could be introduced after Crisis. As I just said, it's really hard to imagine at the moment that there would be a heavy concentration on the season's villain before such a existential threat to the universe. Bottom line with this question, I think it's safe to say we'll get some kind of teasers about the main villain even before Crisis, because 8 episodes is a lot of content, but I don't expect that they're going to do what they did with Cicada, like him in, what was he in, like the first or second episode? There onwards. I think they could just be teasing crimes happening and Barry and everyone's cottoning onto it, and then they'll face him after Crisis. But it's still very interesting, because Crisis, you would have to think, would surely impact the storyline if the villain is introduced beforehand. It is very timey-wimey, and I'm very fascinated to see how the writers of the shows deal with this one for each show. Now, this one, from what I'm seeing from everywhere, seems like quite the popular question. Has Cisco really left? Like, has he actually left the show? So this is such a big question because the show didn't make it incredibly blatant that yes, this character will not be returning next year. It just literally had him walking out of Star Labs smiling, which was a nice way to like kind of say farewell to him or like leave it open-ended. And you also saw him holding hands with Camilla down the street. So you're still probably wondering at this point, so Boba, well, has he left? Well, at this point, I still take it as a yes, but as no character death, he can be open to return and be just as handy as a techie dude. Like, quite literally, Cisco was all about tech, no powers season 1 and season 2. But it is important to remember, I don't think Carlos wants to commit to the Arrowverse anymore, but it's also, you know, open to returning at some points. I think maybe they'll use the excuse of he may come back a few times next season, like how Wally West was meant to come back maybe a couple of times this season. I expect maybe more appearances from Cisco, but I think he might say, as we just mentioned a second ago, why wouldn't he still work in Star Labs since he could be really handy with tech and stuff? I think the argument for that will be, since in real life he doesn't want to commit, but in the show you could argue he could still be quite the hero on Team Flash even without powers, and he doesn't want to be involved with all that dangers of the big season villains and then the metahumans of the week. He kind of wants to be helpful but live a nice happy life, normal regular life with a girlfriend kind of thing, you know, which is kind of lame. And I only mean that in the terms of, I don't believe, despite the setup this season, Cisco Ramon would do that, but real life issues, no matter what, will impact the show, and this one has, so they're just gonna have to do the best they can with writing it. So as of now, there is no official word on this yet, so he could still return in season 6 as a series regular and be like Cisco in the first 2 seasons without any vibe powers, but as I said, he could also just appear a few times in a reoccurring role, as they definitely set that open ending up with him just kind of chilling in Central City. But, you know, we're gonna have to wait for this one. I guess we will hear at some point, you know, going into more news coming out of The Flash season 6 into the summer. Next question is, where did Eobard Thawne run off to when Barry and Nora started running into the negative Speed Force? Like, will we see him again in The Flash season 6? Well, one thing we know is that we'll see Eobard Thawne, and this version, by the way, in the next Crisis event this year. So this could mean that Eobard might be chilling in present day, because all we saw him do is run off like in Central City, like in the distance somewhere. So he might be chilling until, you know, the crisis happens at the mid-season mark, Then again, he could have run into the negative speed force to literally just chill there like Nora was going to, or he could just be doing what the Reverse Flash does best, running around the timeline, perhaps making little changes, ensuring that he's in the most comfortable spot. The next question is one that I'm quite excited for, is what exactly was that case file and what was it about, with Ralph holding it at the end of the episode. So this was all about Sudibny. Right on the side of that case file it said Dearborn. I think that's how it's pronounced. That's Sudibny's middle name. And what I'm excited about this for is that if you guys remember, it was this funny moment between Caitlin and Ralph where he thought that maybe she could be into him, but then he says, I don't think love is in the cards for me. He's never really got attached to people before. But oh boy, like, how wrong is he about that? Like, quite literally, he's gonna meet the love of his life next season. I'm really looking forward to this because I guess this is a case that he picks up for her, and he's going to work for her, but then they obviously might get to know each other a little bit better, and I think that's going to be a really good arc for Ralph next season. This question is very, very interesting as well. So will we see Nora again next season, considering she's, the one we've known all season has quite literally been erased from existence? So yeah, I think we could see her next season, although I personally do think it's a bit weird to imagine her as a regular next season. Todd Helping, the showrunner, did say that she can return in some way or another, and this is true, like, completely. This is the Flash we're talking about. I mean, in theory, Barry and Iris still have a kid, and a new timeline has been set, so they will quite literally still have a daughter. But it won't be the exact same Nora, like, for obvious reasons. This child will be raised with a father unlike Nora was because of Oliver's impending sacrifice, and the crossover means, like, it's most likely that Barry will survive. Plus we got like the Flash season 6 and 7 to go, and I'm pretty sure it's going to reach season 7, maybe even beyond. But even though that sacrifice hasn't happened yet, and it's not solidified that Barry will survive the crossover event in Crisis on Infinite Earths in 2019, so I guess you could say that if we see her in season 6, it could happen after the crossover. But also, just to bring her back as a series regular for season 6 would be weird in my opinion, because it would just feel as though it subtracts from the sacrifice Nora made by living with her mistake and owning it, to only then have some other version on the show next year pretending to be more or less, as if nothing happened. I just can't really imagine it. It really does take away from what happened in the finale. And what are we going to do? Like, year after year of Team Flash hanging out with their future daughter? I mean, I don't know. But ultimately, I can see her coming back for an appearance or two. And of course, she could come back as a regular. It's just, from what I'm observing at the moment, it wouldn't feel right for the story right away. I think if we get her in season 6, it should definitely happen maybe a couple of times well after the crossover. Like, to have it right away would be like, it would just be so forced. It'd be weird. It wouldn't be right. So everyone, those are all the questions I'm going to answer in this video because it's been going on way longer than what I thought it would. But if you want to see like a part 2 to this, maybe even leave some of your like dying questions coming out of the finale that I didn't actually answer or maybe forgot to think of myself. So other than that, everyone, if you did enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate it if you go ahead and like it. It really does help me out. Subscribe for more videos like this over the summer on The Flash and stay up to date with everything comic book nerdy. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you speedsters in the next video. Goodbye.